Ladies and gentlemen, the lights are about to shut off, ending tonight's sanctioned event.
Lights out.
Will not be responsible for what takes place. The following is an unsanctioned lights out match.
When the movie Jaws first opened, it created a sensation. And shark sightings increased by the thousands in all the vast and unknown depths of the ocean. How could there have been only one? There was a terrible tragedy here, but today Amity has a new hotel and the promise of a perfect summer. Now, just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water, the legend continues.
Harry? Chief Brody, can we go, please?
I think we may have another shark problem. Are you serious?
Roy Scheider.
The homies was incredible.
Lorraine Gary. And Murray Hamilton.
Look at this. That's a shark. Look, Brody, you started a panic on a public beach. Now, what if somebody decides to sue us? That's a shark. Did you ever stop to think about that? And I know what a shark looks like because I've seen one up close. You better do something about this one because I don't intend to go through that hell again. Don't press it this time.
Mike is out there. Over there. All I know is the boy is dead and my son and husband is still out there. Get me out! Get out of the room! Yes! Right now!
None of man's fantasies of evil can compare with the reality of Jaws. The all-new Jaws 2. See it before you go back in the water.
Welcome, everybody, to the Lights Out podcast. J.H. Alison, James Kline. We're out of the 80s, and we're going deep into the sea. We are going on a beach tourist island, hanging out with a bunch of teenagers, going sailing, and not heeding the warning of our local traumatized sheriff, who acts strangely like Loomis in this particular film. Because we are out there sailing we're out there causing mayhem, and we're about to blow up some sharks with some electric wires because the Lights Out is talking all about Jaws number 2. We're back.
We're back.
Talking that great white shark demon, Leviathan of the ocean.
Yeah.
Destroying anything in its past and having 1970 young girls scream and overact on all these pictures. All right? That's what we're talking about today. Jaws 2, everybody, for the Lights Out. You know, we were here last month talking the 50th year anniversary of Jaws. And since we talked about it, and the Retro Blood is doing 1980 shark movies, we thought we'd come back here on the Lights Out and talk about Jaws 2, which is a really interesting film, I would say. You know what I mean?
I'm kind of interested to see what you think about it. So I would look forward to doing this show all week because you've never seen this movie before.
No, this is my first viewing experience ever. This movie's been out for it's about to be its 50th year.
It's almost its 50th year, yeah.
Yeah, because this one came out, but it's like
78.
2 years. Yeah, 78. So there's a couple years after
3 years
the original.
after. 3 years after Jaws. Yeah.
So we got 3 years. We got 3 years to go for this film, and then it can get its AARP card.
I know.
We're waiting. Okay.
We're waiting.
So this
to get a discount at Denny's.
Yeah. So we'll talk about it. We got a lot to talk about because I did not realize the drama that invoked making this movie. Because, we talked about Lights Out before on the original Jaws. There was a lot of drama because, the shark wasn't, it wasn't playing along. It was doing the Hulk Hogan. It didn't work for me, brother. All right.
Right.
We had the Universal, you get down Steven Spielberg's ass about going over budget. You know what I mean? And, we just he's out there for weeks and weeks on the sea. Cast members not getting along. You know what I mean? It's a miracle that the fucking the original Jaws even got made. Okay, but with this one though, like I thought, like okay, we obviously nowadays, and I want to talk to you about this, Alison. Nowadays when a big movie hits, like we already expect there to be a sequel. Okay.
Yes.
But that didn't really. That wasn't like a thing. In 1970, am I correct?
That is pretty much correct. Yes. Yeah. I mean, Jaws 2 is not the first sequel, but it was really not common for a big Hollywood movie, a big popcorn movie, summer movie like that, if you will, to have a sequel. So this was kind of this is new territory, really.
Yeah.
So we're making a sequel to a movie. And then you got to figure out how you're going to make a sequel to this movie. Yeah. That had a very definitive ending.
Exactly.
The first time.
Very interesting stuff about that too, which we'll get into. But I was thinking, like, I think and I could be wrong. I'm not no history movie buff guy, but I'm pretty sure Jaws and Star Wars are the two movies in American cinema that made it very popular to make a sequel.
Yes.
I would assume.
Although the Star Wars sequel wouldn't come around for a few more years. It was 1980.
Yeah, 1980.
So in 1978, Star Wars was huge. Yeah. In 1978 still, but it had come out a year before. But really, it was just starting to get into like the not pop culture. It was definitely in the pop culture, but I mean, it was getting mainstream. It was a movie. Star Wars was a movie that everybody had to see, even into 1978. Yeah. And then you got this movie.
Jaws 2. Jaws 2, brother. But there's some funny stuff when it gets to the production. So we'll get into it because there's a lot of juicy stuff on right here. All right, that I'm pretty excited to talk about. But there's a couple of things that we left off when we did the Jaws 50th anniversary. Just two little things I wanted to talk about really quickly. So the first thing is the famous cover art for Jaws. Okay. Which is, the book cover and the movie poster that we all know and love today. All right, it went through a couple of transformations. You know what I mean? Because let's see, if I got this right, Alison, the original book by Peter Benchley was it was basically had like a Jaws teeth on there, and then they took that. Then they made they're like, okay, well, this doesn't like capture us because it was just like kind of like the Jaws teeth. Then they got the girl swimming, but then they had the shark. I'm trying to do it with my hands. Then they had the shark right there, but the shark kind of looked like a dick. All right. So they're just like, nah, he looks like a fucking penis trying to capture this girl. So let's put some teeth on the motherfucker. And that's pretty much how they came up with the original design that we all know and love.
Yeah.
And apparently that was made by, before I got you off, that was made by Roger Kessler. Or Kestel.
Yes.
Roger Kestel.
Yeah, who's a painter.
Yes.
So there's a version that I've seen that has basically the shark. There's a hardcover version that has like a shark with no teeth, and it's white.
Yes.
And then there's the girl swimming up above, but it doesn't. It's hard to tell that it looks like a shark. It does look kind of like a dick.
Yeah, it looks like a little penis.
And then they had Kessler paint it again, and then it drew a shark with teeth in it, which is like an iconic image. That's an iconic painting.
Yeah.
I think that book cover and the movie poster are beautiful.
Yeah,
like it's incredible.
Yeah.
Like, how could you could not possibly see that movie poster and not want to see the movie? Like, I just don't know how that's possible.
I know. And it's such a cool image. It even I wore the tank top for the review we did for Jaws, but it's such an iconic picture. Like, right when you see it, you're getting. It's a great it's just a great image. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah.
It's like back then, before AI, before the dark times, you had an artist who knew how to capture a movie in one image. You know what I mean? And that's just it's a lost art form, really. I mean, you just don't see that much anymore.
Well, speaking of that too, because obviously when we're on the Retro Blood, we talk about all the '80s movies, and to be honest with you, that was the big catch for '80s movies.
Absolutely,
was the movie poster.
Yeah, and also album artwork. Right yeah, and also album artwork. I mean, you drew that's why I think that's one of the things that got Iron Maiden so big was that, they had all those really cool Derek Riggs covers.
Yeah,
when you see that, you're like, I have to buy that. I have to see what that sounds like. That's album art. But yeah, and the same thing with the movie posters. But and Jaws 2 has an iconic movie poster as well.
Yes, I do like the skis. The ski,
yeah,
that one is super fucking cool, man. I'm like, damn, like Jaws. The couple movies we're going to talk about, all their movie posters, even Jaws 3D and Jaws Revenge, the movie posters are like on point with the movie. I will give them that. Okay.
Yeah.
So the other thing I want to talk about is we didn't talk about the famous Jaws music, all right, that was composed by John Williams. Because basically that iconic song of the Jaws of the shark creeping up on the water in the first movie, where we can kind of see it from his point of view. Obviously, that song that John came up with is one of the most iconic songs, in horror. Like right when that song comes on, what movie you're watching. The shark is coming for its prey, brother.
Yeah, just those simple like dun dun, and it's been parried over and over again. It's one of the it's one of the most iconic movies themes that I guess you could say. Yeah. In movies for sure. But yeah, John Williams, I mean, that guy had a hell of a career right around this time.
Yeah.
I mean, in 1977, he did Jaws, right?
Yeah.
In 75. He did Jaws in 75. He did Black. I don't know what he did in 76. He did Black Sunday in 77. He did Star Wars in 77. Oh, shit. He did Close Encounters of the Third Kind in 77. He did Jaws 2 right after that. Then he did Superman.
He's all over the place,
all right in a row. So I mean, he did 5 or 6 or 7 iconic soundtracks right in a row, and then he would do Raiders of the Lost Ark a few years after that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the man is just incredible.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely incredible in the things he can do, the things he's done.
Some of the most iconic, noises you hear and sounds and stuff came from this guy. So very interesting stuff. So a couple of things about the Jaws 2. Let's get into some of the interesting facts about the movie getting made and why it was made. You know, why are we here? Why are we doing Jaws 2?
Why?
All right?
Because of money.
Because of money, brother. All right.
Yeah. Jaws 1 made a ton of money, and they were like, brother, find me another giant shark.
Yeah. So
Let's do this again.
First thing that happened was basically like Alison was saying. Obviously, Jaws made a shit ton of movie. They're like, okay, we got to bring this shit back, man. Like, the first obvious choice was like, hey, Steven Spielberg, can you come back and make this movie? All right. And the guy's like, man, nah, they don't work for me, brother. All right. No. Like the sequels, I don't do that. I don't do all that.
Well, actually, he said that he would have come back and done it, the sequel, and he wanted to do a movie, I think, based on Brody's kids.
Yes.
But he was like, I had such a hard time filming that first movie that I didn't want to do this shit again.
Yeah. So pretty much like you were saying, like he didn't want to be basically on like, you know, out in the boat for like 9 months shooting and stuff. They basically just had, you know, he didn't feel like there was story for a sequel. Then the writers couldn't figure out a story. But one of the stories that they were going to think about was 2 stories before we actually got the ones that we got. The first one is they wanted to do a prequel story, all right, talking about the USS Indianapolis. Okay,
I think that would have been a good idea.
That's what I'm saying, and I am super surprised that idea has not happened yet.
I know, and I mean, I'm not 100% sure it hasn't, but I've never seen a movie based on that story.
Yeah.
So, and I'm pretty shocked that has not been made into a movie at this point.
And the second one was the one you were talking about, where it just follows his kids. Okay, and doesn't really happen, which we'll see. Obviously, I think we're gonna be seeing that later on in like Jaws 3D and stuff. All right, because I don't believe it has our boy Brody in Jaws 3D. But I could be wrong.
No, just it does. He is not in Jaws 3D, but just wait till you see Jaws 3D.
Oh yeah, I bet. So basically, how it started off. So, just like the original Jaws 2 had its troubles. Okay.
Yeah.
The first director was John Hancock, but he provided to be unstable for a action film, apparently. So just like in the original movie, we got a replacement director. Okay, so that's when one, and I hope I don't fuck up this name, but we'll see.
I have no idea how to say this guy's name, so however you say it's going to be the way we go.
Jeannot Szwarc. All right, Jeannot Szwarc.
I'm pretty sure it's Jeannot.
Jeannot?
Yeah, because he's French.
Oh, it's French? That's probably I can't do it. Yeah. Jeannot Szwarc. Okay. Well, if I fucked that up, sorry. But basically,
I have no idea how to say his last name.
He took over the role of directing it. Even after they couldn't get Spielberg, they got this guy John Hancock, and then they replaced him with the Szwarc. Okay.
Yeah.
So obviously there's some trouble there, and he was trying to get some of the cast back, mainly our boy Brody. Okay.
Yeah.
Who was played by Scheider. Okay. And apparently. What's his name? Schneider, okay, didn't want to. Roy Scheider, okay,
yeah,
he didn't want to come back to the film, okay, but he broke a contract, okay, with Universal,
okay.
And let me bring up the movie that he broke it with, because I thought this is pretty fascinating. I got it on here. Did you hear about this story, Alison, where when he broke the contract?
No, okay. I don't know this story, so I'm hearing this for the first time.
Yeah, so this one's pretty fun. Shit. Oh, hold on. All right. Let me bring it up over here, because this one is actually pretty fun. Okay. So basically, Roy Scheider, he didn't want to return to the movie.
Right.
Okay, he thought his role as Brody was fine. He didn't want to go back there at sea. He was like, Steven Spielberg, that don't work for me, brother. Okay, but in 1977, okay, Roy, he quit the role of Michael Versky in The Deer Hunter. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
And I believe he was replaced, okay, by, let me see who he's replaced by. All right. Where is that? I can't find it on here now. Hold on. So, yeah, he did Michael, Deer Hunter.
He was replaced by Robert De Niro.
Yeah, Robert De Niro. There we go.
Yeah, if he played Mike, then in Deer Hunter, he was replaced by Robert De Niro.
Exactly. So he got replaced by Robert De Niro. So he broke his contract with Universal because when he did Jaws and everything, he had a 3-year Universal deal to make 3 movies with them.
Right.
All right. Side note: the Deer Hunter has our boy from last week's Retro Blood, Christopher Walken, in it.
Yep.
Maybe that's why he quit. He's like, I ain't working with this crazy maniac.
That's crazy maniac. Yes.
All right. So basically, he quit that film 2 weeks before the starting of the film because he had some creative differences. Okay. So Roy was contracted at the time for a 3-picture deal, but a studio offered to forgive his failures to fulfill his contract obligations if he agreed to appear in Jaws 2. So basically, if he appeared in Jaws 2, he would only have to make 1 movie with Universal, and that'd be it. He'd be done with his contract. All right? So Roy resisted it. Like, he didn't want to do it, claiming that there was nothing new to create and that people would be watching the film to see the shark, not him. All eyes on me, brother. Okay?
Yeah, and they were right. People want to see the shark.
To be honest with you, I thought our boy Hopper was like the fucking best part of this film because he was the first Loomis character in horror films.
You mean Brody?
Yeah, sorry. Yes, Brody. Yeah. Yes. I like the Brody guy. He was actually my favorite in this film. Okay? Because he reminded me of the Loomis character off of Halloween.
Yes.
All right. Which I will explain here in a little bit. Okay? So apparently, according to his biographer, Roy was desperate to be relieved from the role that he pled insanity and went crazy in the Beverly Hills Hotel. That's what they said. So he tried to go insanity to not get into the Jaws 2 movie.
Right.
All right. However, he was given an attractive financial package for appearing in Jaws 2. All right. And he also got some of the base salary from his first film. And he got points of how well the film does. And then he was all like, you know what? I'm not crazy anymore. I think I'll join this film, brother.
All of a sudden, his sanity returned.
So apparently the Star news reporter that they said they reported that he was making $500,000 for 12 weeks plus an additional $3,500 for each additional week that he schedule ran over. So basically, he Hulk Hogan himself into this role.
Yep.
Now I don't.
Man, you got to get paid when you get paid, right?
Now I don't think he did the Christopher Walken Creative Freedom, but he definitely got paid for his job here. Okay.
Yeah.
So, despite him being very reluctant about the film, they did say that he wanted to make the best out of it. So that's why, because I thought he did great in this job. I didn't think he was like phoning it in or not at all. I thought he did great.
No, Roy Scheider's a great actor.
Yeah.
And he was really, he was good in the first movie. He's great.
Yeah. So, so he also said that the atmosphere was tense on the set, and Scheider often argued with the director, Szwarc. On one occasion, Snyder complained in front of extras that Caesar was wasting time with technical issues and the extras were ignoring the principal actors. All right, so he's all like, don't be talking to the extras, brother. Don't you know who you have over here? I want the green M&Ms in my trailer.
Yep, only green M&Ms.
All right. So a meeting was called with David Brown and Vernon Fields, in which Roy and Szwarc were encouraged to settle the differences. The discussion became heated and physically fight broke out, which Brown and Fields broke up. Just imagine that, man. Like, fuck. You're fighting this goddamn director? Like, just like, this guy Roy is like, I'm just going to strap some hands, man.
Right.
This is like a wrestling backstage thing with this shit.
It is.
It is.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Like, he goes.
You're right.
It's his biggest star role right here, right? He signs a contract with Universal. Okay? They book him to be in this deer hunting movie. He's like, I ain't doing that shit, brother. That don't work for me. Okay, well, we're going to give you Jaws 2 again. We'll get you out of your fucking deal. You know, it's like a wrestling match. And he's like, oh, fuck. Well, no, I can't do it. I'm insane. Oh, you're going to give me that much money? Okay, I'm not insane anymore. Let's do it. Oh, you brought me this director. He wants to book me how? That don't make me look strong.
No, we're going to scrap.
Is he a wrestler?
He could very easily be a wrestler. He's like the real life wrestler. Like he's like,
what the fuck?
He's a badass. Like he will fight you.
Exactly.
Sure. Roy Scheider will fight you.
So I was like, God damn. He's like fighting this guy in front of the executive and everything. All right. So they broke up the fight. The rift was also with let's see, in a letter, Scheider wrote that working with this is what Roy. All right, how do you say his last name? Schneider.
It's Roy Scheider.
Roy Scheider.
It's like Schneider but with no N. So it's Scheider.
Scheider wrote that working with the directors, knowing he will never say he is sorry or ever admitting he overlooked something. Well, enough of that shit for me. All right. He requested an apology from the director for not consulting him. All right. So the director replied, focus upon completing the film to be best possible standards. All right. So this is one of the notes. If I may read it. I love the drama. You know I love this drama.
I love it.
All right,
I love it.
So time and pressure are part of my reality and priority, something I must deal with. You have been consulted and your suggestions made part of my scenes many times. Whenever they did not contradict the overall concept of the picture. If you have to be offended, I deplore it. For no offense was meant. At this point in the game, your feelings or my feelings are immortal and irrelevant. The picture is all that matters. Sincerity, Jeannot, the director. So, basically trying to be the booker. Hey, brother, calm this down. Well, just do what I'm saying and I'll pay your money.
Well, the director kind of is the booker, so he just needs, Scheider needs to shut up and just say his lines.
So, I was like, God damn, we got some drama on here and everything. All right. So, a couple things. So we are back at Martha's Vineyard, all right, out there in Massachusetts. Okay, it's still the same empty place, same beach town, but unlike the first film, apparently, since the movie blew up and everything, like a lot of there was like the town was kind of split in two. I heard is basically half the people wanted to be in the movie and be extras, and half the town's like, oh fuck, we got to deal with these assholes again from Universal. So,
they were probably really tired of people coming to their town as tourists. You know what I mean? Like, Martha's Vineyard is a tourist town, but it's like a tourist town for like rich people.
Yeah.
Like the Kennedys, vacationed at Martha's Vineyard, so. They were probably the people that were from there and people vacationing there probably were tired of like people coming to do movie tourism there. I have a feeling.
And they were also mad about the production because, when you get a bunch of making a big blockbuster film, they're going to block off roads, shut down some businesses and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because for the filming and everything like that. So I think, like I said, half of them were fine when they want to be in the picture and half of them are kind of like, we got this big, it's just a hindrance. Basically there. So let's see what else we got on here.
But they only filmed the town scenes in Martha's Vineyard.
Yes.
The ocean scenes were filmed in Florida.
Yeah, in Florida, yes. All right. So I think it was the Navarra Beach in Florida.
Something like that,
yeah. They went there because the weather was warm and the water was deep enough for the shark platform. All right. Which the shark platform on this one was actually messing up as well.
Yeah. But the shark was made better, though.
Yeah.
This is a much better shark. The mouth on it looks a lot better, if you notice.
Let's see what we got here. All right. Yeah, this is what the Martha's Vineyard people were saying. This is what one local newspaper was saying at the time. Yeah. It says the Jaws people are back among us. More efficient, more organized, and more money-eyed. Money-eyed. Gone are the happy-go-lucky days of the first Jaws, where the big trucks rolled about the island from day to day, always highly visible with miles of cable snaking here and there over roads and lawns. Gone are the wrangles and select persons over noise and zooming regulations and this and that. What is still here is money, about 2 million of it.
Okay.
Okay, fancy. All right, so let's see. So, like in the previous film, the ocean was provide challenging. All right. Roy said that they were always conducting with tides, surf and winds, jellyfish, sharks, water sprouts, and hurricane warnings while filming. After spending hours anchoring the sailboats, the wind would change as they were ready to shoot, blowing the sails in the wrong direction. As in the first film, the salt water's corrosion effectively damaged the metal parts in the mechanical shark and some other equipment. So same old things. Well, it's cool though that they kept the filming on the ocean though. Like they didn't take that away for this film at least.
Yeah, well, you almost couldn't, right? Because if you shot it the second movie in a tank, it wouldn't look realistic compared to the first one.
I guess we'll see what the 3D looks like, if that's in a tank or not. All right, let's see. Let's see what else we got on here. All right. Okay, so there's a couple things, so like we were saying before, I'm going to circle back to it. Steven Spielberg, after denying he didn't want to film Jaws 2, then they found out the idea about the USS Indianapolis and using the kids, okay? So he actually was considering a return to direct the sequel. Okay.
Yeah.
But he wanted to do it over the some sort of like bicentennial weekend in 1976. Spielberg had hammered out a screenplay based on Quint's Indianapolis speech. Okay.
Yeah. No, that's when he decided he wanted to do that movie, but he couldn't. He had to come back after Close Encounters finished, and they wouldn't wait on him, I think.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, the Close Encounters of the Third Kind was in production, and basically, the Universal did not want Spielberg to finish that movie and then do the film. They wanted to get the movies going on right now. Okay. So the production designer Joe Alvarez, who would direct Jaws 3, which we will be talking about this Sunday on the Retro Blood. Okay.
Well, I can't wait for this.
Yes. Anne Vern Fields, who had been promoted to vice president of Universal after her acclaimed editing on the first film, proposed that they co-direct it. The request was declined by the Directors Guild of America, partly because they would not allow a DGA member to be replaced by somebody who was not one of its members, and partially because they, in the wake of events of this on the set of The Outlaw Joseph Wales, had instituted a ban on any cast or crew members taken over as directors during the film's production.
Oh, right. Okay. That makes sense. So, because, God, what is his name? It just left my mind. Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
Clint Eastwood was an Outlaw Josie Wales, and then he replaced, if I'm not mistaken, the director. Yeah. So, the star of the movie is he's like, fuck it, I'm going to direct this myself. When they fired the director. But then they put a ban on that because you got to protect the union, right?
Yeah.
You got the Directors Guild. You got to find a real director in our guild to be able to be your director. You can't just hire any damn actor off the street to do that.
It's like the wrestler, the main wrestler of the territory, booking the territory. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Always putting themselves on top.
Nope.
Can't do that in the movies, brother. Too much unions.
Nope.
All right. So that's why when all that stuff happened during that's when the reins eventually got handed to our boy Jeannot Szwarc. That's French enough for you there? And
it's French enough for me.
And apparently he's best known for the film Bug. Okay. And I didn't realize on this, but he's actually did some directing on the series Night Gallery, which is a really cool series. All right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's see what else we got on here. So, were you surprised, Alison, that they did not bring back the Hooper character? Because I was a little bit. I mean, why the fuck did he stay alive? We didn't bring him back.
So it's hard for me to have that opinion because I've seen this movie so many times.
Oh, okay.
And I've seen it at such a young age that that's just a part of what the movie is to me.
Yeah.
So it is a little bit surprising. I'm guessing that, well, Richard Dreyfuss couldn't have done this movie because he was in Close Encounters.
Yeah.
So he wouldn't have been able to do it anyway. And I'm guessing that's why one of the reasons they couldn't bring him back was because he was doing Close Encounters. But as we talked about on the Jaws,
Hold on.
Hold
on one second.
I'm a little surprised they didn't try to bring it back, but I think the movie is better without it. Okay.
Oh, sorry, you're breaking up for a little bit.
Okay, yeah, you were kind of frozen too. Where do you want me to go back to?
Just your thought that you just said. Just whatever you just said.
So, I mean, I guess I could see how it'd be a little bit surprising if they wouldn't bring him back because he was a star and he survived the first movie. But I feel like the movie's better and much leaner with just Brody in it.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, and his kids,
you know what I mean?
Stuff,
they don't. Yeah, and I don't remember them explaining why he doesn't try to call Hooper back to help him.
No, he's just like, fuck that guy.
Although it is pretty, he's like, fuck that guy. Like, but it is pretty fast paced though.
Yeah.
You know, so he's like, the shark's coming. He's like, oh, we got to do something about the shark. And then he's just like straight into action kind of.
Well,
like Terminator.
To his credit though, like half the film was figuring out if it actually was a shark attack or not. You know what I mean? Because it was basically like the...
True.
It was kind of like how Halloween was. You know what I mean? Like, Loomis knew that Michael Myers was on the loose, and he knew how dangerous Michael Myers were. But a lot of the cops and everything, and the city and stuff, was not heeding his warning. He made him look to be a crazy man. And that's basically what happened in this film when those two underwater photographers got attacked at the beginning of the film. And they know somebody got attacked under there, but they couldn't exactly say who it was at all. And I guess it took them a while to develop the film. And even when they got the film developed and you could halfway see a shark kind of in that little thing, the whole town and mayor just thought this guy, Brody, was insane. Just like, you know, they thought he had too much trauma from the first film to take himself to be credible. All right? And it's a classic Loomis where the guy is crazy, trying to tell everybody this shark's coming, you're all gonna die. All right, and then it comes true.
Loomis. Yes,
bro. He even
the old classic Loomis.
He even shot the shark that wasn't really the shark 6 times. I was like, what is going on here, bro?
I know.
And like,
and this was the same the year after Halloween, or the same year as Halloween.
Yeah, the same year. This is the same year that Halloween came out, but this one came out in June? I think it came out. Let me see. Yeah, it was like June something. All right, and Halloween came out in October. Yeah. So I was like, wait a minute.
They're very similar movies in a lot of ways. Yeah. They're very similar movies.
Yeah, to like just the way the two main character guys are. And there's a couple of things I want to talk about when it comes to the Brody character. First of all, you know, obviously me and Alison, we do a lot of 80s horror movies. You know what I mean? And there's
one or two.
Yeah, one or two of them. And like, there's like a shit ton of 80s horror movies that have like the town detective. Okay. And not all the times are these town detectives like on their best luck. They're always like defeated. You know what I mean? Getting into the films and everything, and like it's very interesting to see a lot of films take this movie, Jaws 2. Because a lot of them I think a lot of them took inspiration for their detectives off the Brody character, because of the way kind of like how he's, you know, technically he was like the big star of the town because he's the one that got rid of the original, you know, shark. So it became like he was new to the town, he wasn't used to the water. You know what I mean? The townsfolk didn't really respect him too much. They thought he was lying about all the Jaws and stuff, the shark and everything. Then he defeated it, and then now we see in this movie that he is a little bit more well respected. But the problem is he still he was like traumatized by the shark. All right.
Yeah.
So he because he got to see what the shark really was like, because it was only him, Hooper, that are out there, like, defeating the shark. So not a lot of the townspeople got to see what it's like. So he had like all that trauma to him, and it's just one of those classic things where the sheriff is like the hero, but the townspeople, they don't believe it. They just think he's crazy. And I feel like a lot of horror movies did that in the 80s. They copied that same format.
Yeah, where you have the defeated sheriff who's like, who can't not that he can't do anything right, but he's just like, he's not the hero of the town anymore. Yeah. But he's the only one that knows what's going on and how to stop it. And
he's the one that, like some of his other films we do, he's the one that they take away his sheriffship, okay?
Yeah.
And but when shit goes down, he's the one that goes and tries to rescue the kids. All right, they don't, not the dumb sheriff they put in charge. He doesn't know what the hell he's doing.
Right.
But our boy,
but that's Brody, a classic story, though, right?
Exactly.
It's a classic story, right? There's one guy who's trying to make a difference, and then it pisses off the people in charge, so they hire a completely incompetent asshole who's going to do what he's told to be in that role. So so now we have this incompetent sheriff that he hires, who was his deputy before.
So I want to ask you a question, Alison. This is the last out, and I could do that. So what did you feel about adding the kids in? Because the original Jaws, we had a couple kids being the victim. Obviously, we had at the beginning of the film, the first kill was that teenage girl, and then after that was the little kid. But in this one, I felt like there was a lot more focus on the teenagers being in danger. We were doing a lot of that more elements in this film. What did you feel about that compared to like the first film, where we had our three main characters mostly in the danger?
So I feel like the kids were introduced as victims to make Brody care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it would have been pretty easy for Brody to be like, fuck this, I'm going somewhere else.
Yeah.
You deal with this shark on your own. You don't believe me. Yeah. You fired me. I'm going to move out of town, and you can deal with this on your own. But once his kids were involved and were victims, that gave him a reason to risk his life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you can talk about hero complexes and things like that and people wanting to be heroes, but in real life, unless there's some very, very good reason, most people will not put their own lives in danger. And that gave him a reason to do that, I feel like.
I agree with that.
So I like that. So I guess I like that quality of the movie was having the kids in danger on the sailboats.
Yeah, I thought it brought a little bit more of a this is more wider universe when they added the kids on there. Because which we'll see later on in the 80s, like obviously films like Friday the 13th. You know what I mean? Nightmare on Elm Street. They all have that age group, and that age group has been in danger. You know what I mean? So in a ways, this Jaws 2 was a little bit before its time, bringing out some of the teenagers in danger with the one killer kind of going after them. So I like the aspect of that. Now, I don't know where they found this girl at. All right, the one that was just screaming the whole time on the boat. Holy shit! Like, I can't even reenact her screaming. It's so fucking intense. But I was like, damn. Okay.
Yeah,
that's why she.
It's almost like remember when we did Blowout?
Yeah.
And then at the beginning of Blowout, he's like testing the girls to have an audition he's having them audition their screaming.
Yeah.
That's how I imagined that they auditioned this girl. Like,
yeah,
just scream. Can you scream?
Yeah, can you scream?
Good enough.
Look intense for it. Oh shit.
Yeah.
All right. So obviously with
that's
this
all you
one,
got to do.
So we have an older Michael Brody on this one, and he is kind of the I guess you could tell that if they're going to make some more sequels, that he'll be like the lead. So I'm guessing he's going to be the lead in Jaws 3 coming up.
Okay.
But I'm guessing. I have no idea. I've never seen the film yet. All right. But, I could tell that they were kind of pushing his character to be kind of like, at least have an interaction with the shark. Because on the first film, the only interaction that young Brody had with the shark was the shark was in the pond, but he got out of the pond before the shark kind of could get him. All right, so this one they probably wanted to make his character more in danger with the shark. And also too, there's another thing I want to ask you, Alison, that it was, I think it was kind of missed in this film. So in Jaws 2, we did not get the shark vision at all, did we?
No, because they wanted to show the shark more.
Yeah,
because he thought the director thought that you couldn't. So that scene where the shark jumps up out of the water for the first time and you see it in the first movie, you can't recreate that. So we might as well show the shark. Plus, they had a better looking shark in this one, so they could show it more. Yeah. I also like that cool scar they gave it, like pretty near the beginning of the movie with the burn on its face. Yeah, that was badass. Yeah, made the shark look mean.
Yeah, I did like the shark attacks that they were doing when they were close to the island, because you really got to see him break a bunch of boats, break a bunch of sailboats. They didn't do as many tricks in this one as they did in the first Jaws, because in the first Jaws they had the Jaws vision, which was the Hitchcock special. They had they shoot the shark with the barrels, so you can kind of see where he's at there in the barrels. They didn't do any of that in this film. This one, the shark just like appears and then attacks you. Okay.
Yeah, it just shows the shark.
Yeah. Which, obviously it did the old, you see like the burn mark that it had on there. You can see the teeth and everything. So, obviously that aspect of it was kind of like what they wanted to do in the first film, but they weren't able to because the shark kept breaking down. But this one, while still breaking down, they were able to get a lot more shots with them on there, which is pretty cool.
Yes.
So a couple things, about the Jaws 2. The beginning of the story is very interesting. It basically was there's some mystery attacks being had on the beach, but for some reason, like the town and everything, we're just like, no, it's not a shark. Like we got rid of that thing. There's no more sharks in the ocean that can come over here, brother. That's something else.
It can't be another shark. That can't be possible.
And like there was some controversy where I can kind of agree with this a little bit. There were some critics out there that said this movie was a little bit like, too like the first movie, where like the plot was pretty similar in a couple ways, one shark, attacking people. It's kind of a mystery. The town doesn't want to shut it down, but Brody wants to shut it down, Right. That aspect of the film is, very similar. But, I like this one where I feel like we got a little bit more of an expanded universe. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like we got a lot more players in this film, than we did in the Jaws 1. So I thought for that sequel part, I thought I did it pretty well. A little bit bigger universe.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're right. It is very similar as the first movie. In fact, when I was a kid, I used to get them confused.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't. Certain scenes from one movie would be in the other one. Yeah. I think a better plot for Jaws 2 would have been to have it kind of the opposite of the first movie, where Brody refuses to believe that there's another shark, but everybody else does, and they're trying to, and he thinks that somebody's like playing a trick on him or whatever. And then people start dying, and then they have to convince him that it's actually a shark and he needs to go kill it. I think that would have been a better plot than the one we got. But I think the plot was pretty good, though. Yeah. It's not a Academy Award winning script, but it's fun to watch. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, and
that's all you need.
Especially after all the rewrites and them not coming up with the idea, because like I said, Universal was brought 2 ideas before this one came to be. Obviously the earliest one being the sequel to they're kind of like a prequel, basically, like the USS in Indianapolis, and I think that would have been pretty fun.
That would have been a good movie, yeah. That would have been great.
I'm surprised, maybe we'll get into it more when we talk about the Jaws 3 and Revenge and stuff, but after Revenge, there's no other Jaws movie. That's like it.
Well, technically there isn't, but there is a Jaws 5.
Oh, okay.
Which was made in the 90s. So I've talked about this a little bit on the show before, but in Italy, you don't have to have the rights to something to make a sequel to it.
Yeah.
So you can watch Jaws 5, but it's not called Jaws 5 here. It's called Cruel Jaws, but it's an Italian sequel to Jaws. And it used footage from Jaws 1 and Jaws 2.
Oh, okay.
And other shark movies. Bruno Mattei directed it. He directed a bunch of movies that he's directed something else we've done, but I can't think of what it is off the top of my head. But yeah, so there was a Jaws. Oh, he directed Hell of the Living Dead, which we did during Zombie Month a while back. But he directed a Jaws sequel, a Jaws 5. But it came out in the 90s, so we may have to do it someday as a Lights Out. But yeah, so you can watch it. It's called Cruel Jaws in the United States, but it was marketed as Jaws 5 in Italy. So
that one,
little known information.
There you go. That's a little fun. I do like it when the Italians they take over. They're like, we're making our own sequels. By the way, shout out to Santa Jaws out there.
Santa Jaws, yeah.
That's a movie we may or may not be doing later on.
Maybe.
So, but just a couple things about this Jaws 2. Let's break it down a little bit, Alison. Okay.
Yeah.
So, what did you think about the shark attack at the beginning of the film? Where they had the two scuba divers,
photographers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was pretty scary. I liked that. I liked how they're just scuba diving around, taking pictures, and then all of a sudden this huge shark comes out of nowhere. And I love how they do this quite a bit in these movies, but I love how a character's underwater and then they see the shark and they get really scared and then they just blow the air out of their mouths or whatever around the mask. And and then there's and then the water comes and the bubbles come out. I just think that's genuinely scary and it makes them seem scared. And I really liked it. I like how it got the plot going by taking a picture of the shark, kind of.
Yeah, kind
of. So yeah.
I believe too, they were swimming around the boat that sank in the first movie, right?
Yeah. They were swimming around
Cortez
the boat that sank in the first movie.
Yeah,
that's true. They don't ever really explain why there's another shark though.
Yeah, it just kind of like
also why it's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it was maybe it was the brother of the original Jaws.
Maybe, and he's just pissed off.
Yeah, he's pissed off, brother. He's like, man, my brother said there was some good meat around here. Where the hell is he at? Right. So during this and stuff too, this is when we're the town is thriving. I mean, I think they're getting ready for 4th of July again too, right? In this movie. Yeah,
they're getting ready for their summer holiday, which is 4th of July. Yeah.
By the way, shout out to 4th of July. That's when this airs.
Yeah.
Happy 4th of July, everybody.
Yeah, so go eat your hot dogs and your hamburgers, and then go home and listen to Lights Out.
Yeah,
Jaws 2.
Jaws 2, brother. All right. So the biggest struggle, basically, like we were saying before this movie, was the government townspeople in charge were not wanting to hear anything about sharks, even though. Brody, he was crazy about it. Like the scene where he's out on the beach, where he's he's on the shark tower, and he's looking around and everything, and he sees kind of like a shadow in the water. All right, and he's following it, and he's all like, okay, I'm not sure what I'm seeing. And then he sees it move, and he starts freaking out. Oh, shark everywhere. Then he runs and he says, get the fuck out of the water, get out of the water. And then
he's shooting his gun on the beach.
Yeah, you can show it there, and he starts shooting his gun at the shit, and shoots it 6 times. I shot it 6 times. All right, and then the guy's like, "It's just bluefish. It's just bluefish." And then he's like, "Oh fuck!" That scene right there, that reminded me of the Loomis character of Halloween.
Yes,
that right there,
absolutely,
that
was a Halloween.
Yes. And I was like, oh,
that's
shit.
a Halloween scene. Yeah.
And then everybody's looking at him like, oh boy, even his wife is looking at him like, oh boy, you fucked up good this time. All right.
Yeah.
So that's when he gets the proof about the picture, and he brings the picture to the council. And it's another Loomis moment where he's like, he's I like when he brings the picture in. All right. He's like, he has a picture, right? And he lays it there. They're all like, what are we looking at here? You don't see it?
But you can't see it?
You can't see it? They're like, no, what the fuck are we looking at, man? It's a shark. It's a fucking shark. And they're all like, what the fuck? I don't see no shark on here. It's like ink block. He's like, look at it. Look at the eye. Look at the eye. I'll be like, bro, what the fuck? Are they like related? Him and Loomis? I mean, godly. Were you not getting that vibe? I was getting it. No, this guy, he's crazy, man.
Definitely. It would have been amazing to have him show up in Halloween 2 as Brody, and he's like, I know what you're talking about. I just dealt with a shark.
Just dealt with that shark,
I shot him 6 times. He didn't die.
He didn't die. Shot him 6
times. You gotta electrocute him.
They didn't believe me. I bought him an ink photo. I had an eyeball on there.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, to be honest, I mean, that picture barely looked like a shark.
Well, he was like,
I mean,
that's a shark,
I
brother.
see why. Yeah, I see why they didn't believe him. Because, I mean, come on.
And then I think one of my favorite parts is like the human part of Brody. So he's back at his house talking to his wife and stuff. He's all depressed.
Yeah.
And she's all like, what's going on? I was like, you know what? He's like drunk. He's also drunk during this time.
Yeah, he's drunk. Yeah.
And he's all like, fuck, bro. He's like, you know what? I got, I got fired from jobs before when I was young, but I never got fired from a real job before. Maybe you should have been a fucking maniac when you're presenting your evidence. All right, shooting at the beach,
shooting your gun on the beach. Yeah,
it's like I don't get why they would do that.
I have no idea. I mean, honestly, I mean, him shooting his gun on the beach and acting like a crazy person with his gun out is probably going to get him fired.
Yeah.
Even if no matter what. So
even though it was I like it. It wasn't his gun on the beach. It was his photo that got him fired and replaced by the dick sheriff. So
that's true. That's true.
And then the other underlying story, which wasn't as good as Brody. Like I said, Brody to me was like the best part of this film. He was even better than the shark. All right. Basically it was the kids, and it was one of those things where Brody he grounded Michael. Okay. Because he didn't want him to go, but Michael's the teens, and he was getting some hot ass. This girl was flirting with them, so that's when he agreed to go sailing, and they all go sailing and stuff, and that's when they get attacked by the shark. But I thought the scenes where the shark was attacking the kids was pretty cool, and I really liked the scene where the helicopter came in. That was a really good idea.
Yeah. I'm not really sure a shark could like pull a helicopter underwater.
No,
but it looked cool in this movie.
It looked cool. Well,
it was a big shark though.
The Jaws can. That's the one that could do it.
The Jaws can. Yeah.
The way they did that was very fascinating.
That was fucking cool. Yeah.
Yeah, where it got the guy and the Jaws comes up and bites it and it kind of pulls underneath, and then like the freaking helicopter wings go flying and stuff at everybody. So
that was awesome.
Yeah, and then they had to like work together to pull themselves back and stuff. And they're trying to get on the island and stuff. But how'd you feel like the way the shark died in this movie compared to the first movie? I don't know. I thought it was I thought in this one was like, I didn't like it as much, but
you don't get the big Hollywood explosion.
Well, you kind of do.
But you kind of do, yeah, because he electrocutes the shark.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure how they kind of all didn't get electrocuted. Like when the shark bit into the line, like why did it not just conduct through the water?
Well,
or does salt water not conduct electricity? Maybe. I don't know, but
I know why. It was
not a
only
lot of science in the Jaws movies.
It was only gimmicked to hurt the shark.
Right, that's true. It was booked that way.
It was booked that way.
But yeah, I mean, I liked how like they electrocuted the shark and the shark set on fire.
Yeah, even
though he's underwater or in the water. So yeah, that was fucking great. It was cool. I thought the shark looked better though. I like how they have they I don't know if you noticed, but they created a new mouth for the shark.
Yeah, it's a little different.
And the jaw hinges looked better, because if you look in the first movie, like one of the big glaring flaws in the first movie was the hinges on the mouth were just rubber, right? So like when the mouth would open and close, in the movie you can actually hear the rubber going smacking together, and then the corners of the mouth of the shark just look like rubber. But in this one they fixed it to where it looks more like a real mouth, which I thought was cool. The shark looked better in this movie. The movie's not as good overall, but the shark looked better.
Yeah. I do like it too where this movie was where the tagline came in. Just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water. All right. Obviously that has become one of the most famous taglines
Yeah,
Yeah.
which was used in Blood Beach as
Yes.
well. Remember, like, it's just when it was, you felt like it was safe to go back in the water, you can't get there or whatever it was. Yeah. So
Mark Gliplin, Sean Brody, claims that when they were shooting on one of the scenes of the makeshift raft of the wrecked yacht, they were being circled by a real hammerhead shark. All right.
Yes.
The actors were scared and began to scream and holler at the production crew, which was filming the particular scene from a distance. The crew was obviously in danger and assumed the actors were simply in character and gave them this thumbs up. So they're all freaking out. They're like, "Great job, guys."
Great job. Good job being terrified.
Yep.
Such great actors. Yeah, this the guy that played Mike Brody. This was the last movie he ever made.
Oh, okay. Interesting. There you go. All right, let's see. We got some of the stuff on here. All right, so let's see. Okay, so as in the first film too, footage of real sharks filmed by Australian divers Ron Taylor and Valerie Taylor were used for movement shots that could not be achieved using the mechanical shark. So they reused those two actors that they used in the first movie. They used them over here in some of their shots when they actually did some real life shark video. All right, because in the first movie, they actually used some of their shots when it came to when Hooper was in the cage. All right.
Right.
So a couple things I thought this is pretty fun. The film cost $30 million to produce, over 3 times more than the original. David Brown says that they did not budget the film because Universal would never have given a green light to a $30 million budget in those days. The Marine Davison head for Universal on location, Philip Kingsbury, says that it costs approximately $80,000 per day to make this movie. When Kingler asked Brown what his budget was, the producer responded, "We're not wasteful, but we're spending the profits from Jaws, and it would take what it takes." So basically, this movie even went way more cost than the original Jaws did.
Yeah.
So.
But they had a proven hit, though, so that was probably okay.
Let's see. Yeah. Let's see. We talked about that. Okay, so this one's pretty interesting too. All right, so this one surpassed The Spy Who Loved Me, 1977. Okay. Has the highest
the James
grossing
Bond movie.
Yeah, the James Bond one. Not to be confused with the Austin Power, The Spy Who Shagged Me, which is a great movie.
Yeah, also a classic movie.
So it surpassed this movie, has the highest grossing sequel worldwide, and held the record until surpassed by Rocky II.
Rocky II.
1979, so only had it for like a year. All right. Then Rocky II, which itself was surpassed a year later by Star Wars. Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, 1980. All right. So basically, Jaws 2 was the highest sequel, surpassing James Bond. Then Rocky took him over, and then Star Wars. So Star Wars always, especially during this time, beats out everything, which is crazy to think that they didn't make another Star Wars film until like 2000s. So
right.
Let's see what we got here. All right, so Howard Sackler, who had contributed to the first film script but chose not to be credited, was tasked with writing the first draft. He originally proposed a prequel based on the sinking of the USS Indianapolis, like we talked about during this review. The story replayed by Quint in the first film. Although Universal president Sid Sheinberg thought Sackler's treatment from the film was intriguing, he rejected the idea. So that's basically what happened. So the head of Universal, Sid, he thought the idea was nice, but I guess he didn't want to do that idea. So what do you,
Right.
you know, let's focus on that, Alison. What do you think? Do you think this movie would have been as successful if they went with that original draft? Because it would have been way different, because there would be no kids, there'd be no beach. You know what I mean? We would have a shark, but we probably had to do many sharks, because in that story, he said he got attacked by many sharks, not just one shark. So, like, I don't think the budget for that film, I don't think they could have done that in the 70s, to be honest.
No, I don't think the movie would have been nearly successful. No, because it wouldn't have been. There would also not really been a lot of action in it. You know what I mean? Like, this is an action movie. Yeah. It would have been more like the first movie, where people are floating in the water waiting to get eaten by a shark.
Yeah.
So no, there's no way that it would have been nearly as successful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's interesting to think about, though. You know what I mean? So, like I'm saying, like, I don't think that original plot would have been good for this film. I think the one they did was just fine for, like, a summer blockbuster style film. You know what I mean? A little bit more,
right?
You know, a little bit more victims that we can believe. You know, we're not you know, eating soldiers and military trained professionals. We're out there killing, you know, teenagers. All right.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think, though, like, that could have been Jaws 5, though. Like, if we had a Jaws 5, I think they probably could have done, like, the USS Indianapolis Jaws 5, or, like, you know how, like, Star Wars now is doing all those, like, you know, side movies. You know what I mean? Like Rogue One and shit like that. They could have done, like, a side movie for Jaws or something like that.
You know what? They could have. What they should have done is, like, done that as a prequel.
Yeah.
And then they could have, you know, had the Quint character in that movie as a younger man.
Yeah.
And then, like, right at the end of it, the Jaws shark from the first movie came up and he was about to eat Quint, and then Quint gets rescued. And then you have the shark, like, vowing revenge on Quint. And that's the whole reason that he ends up coming to Amity in the first movie.
Yeah.
See, it's full circle there.
Full circle, man. There you go, man. Now, before we get on out of here, Alison, because we have a lot to do on the Retro Blood talking about Jaws 3D, I just want to ask you something. Do you think Jaws, as a franchise, could have done a television series? Like, you think could we have?
No.
Could Baywatch be the version of Jaws we never got?
Well, you mean it's like Baywatch with sharks?
Yeah.
Where they just keep showing up every week and it's a different shark.
Yeah.
I mean, that would have been humorous. Yeah. But when you get to Jaws 3, you will realize why you can't really go much further than we've gone already. I'll leave it at that.
I guess we'll see about that.
But one thing I did want to mention, though, I don't know if you were aware of this or not, but are you familiar with the unfortunate title of Jaws 2 in France?
No. Was it?
So Jaws was not called Jaws in France. It was called, and my French is terrible. So, and if we have any French-speaking listeners, I am so sorry, and I'm sure that we do. But it was in France, the first Jaws was called Les Dents de la Mer, which means the teeth of the sea. So Jaws 2 would have been called Les Dents de la Mer 2, which would have been Teeth of the Sea 2, but Mer 2 in French is shit.
Oh, okay.
So it would have translated basically to the teeth of shit. So they had to change it to where it was basically Les Dents de la Mer Part 2. They just add a Part 2 into it, so that made sense. So, but yeah, so that would have been kind of humorous.
We got to make sure we don't got no
if
shit
they had
sharks.
not caught that.
Yeah,
exactly. No teeth of shit.
Yeah, exactly. So, but everybody, that has been Lights Out, having a good old discussion about probably one of the biggest sequels in cinema history, Jaws 2.
Yeah, it's a good sequel. Yeah. It's a good sequel. It's not better than the first one, but it's a really good movie.
Yeah.
It's really fun to watch.
You know,
really fun to watch.
Even the drama that was happening on set with the shark breaking again, with finding the right script. We're having Roy and Jeannot not getting along, doing fist fights out there, contract disputes, having the Martha's Vineyard, half the town pissed off that the Universal people are back. You know what I mean? You got Steven Spielberg crapping on the film, saying he ain't doing no cheap trick sequel. He ain't doing that, brother. No. All right. After all the hurdles, I actually thought this film was pretty fun. And I thought they did the Brody character very well. I really enjoyed his character all throughout this movie. I thought they built the universe of Jaws a lot. You know, even the kids, I thought it was a good idea to put the kids in danger. You know what I mean? Because we would see that in a million horror movies right after this. So yeah, I mean, Jaws 2 definitely is a fun one. You could definitely watch 1 and 2 back to back, and you'll get entertained by both of them, I would say.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
So,
Jaws 1 and 2 are both good. Next week, I kind of Jaws 3. So Jaws 3 is very entertaining in a completely different way, though.
I like it.
So I can't wait for you to see this one. Yeah.
But everybody, join us on the Retro Blood, where the boys are back for a whole new month in July, talking 1980s shark movies, starting off with the one and only Jaws 3D. All right, we're back in some 3D town. You know what I mean? These 3D movies are always fun. Are you going to watch it on 3D there, Alison? Do you have a 3D TV?
So I do, but I've recently upgraded my TV. I have the 65-inch Sony now, so I don't use the 3D TV anymore. It's sad. But I have watched Jaws 3 in 3D.
Okay.
Because the Blu-ray has a 3D track on it.
Yeah.
So when I first got it, I did watch it in 3D, and it's quite amazing. In 3D.
Now, is it Friday the 13th level amazing?
Yes.
Okay, I like it.
Yes.
Can't wait for that one, everybody. Well, everybody, join us, because they'll be back this Sunday. That's like, what, 2 or 3 days from now?
3 days.
There you go, brother.
Yeah, something like that.
Join us back here. We'll be back here talking Jaws 3D. But everybody, thanks for checking us out on the Lights Out. We come here every once in a while. We get out of the 80s. We take the DeLorean. We travel through different eras of movies here on the Lights Out. We have a free discussion. We just find a bunch of stuff. No rules. We don't have no format. We just talk about whatever. You know what I mean? We'll come back on here. I'm not sure when we're going to do another Lights Out, because we kind of just like add the lights out when we need them and when we want to talk about things. But we always do a Lights Out in October for our wrestling fans out there. We always do the Battle of the Halloween Havocs. But we'll be back before then on the Lights Out here too, talking some horror movies, talking some metal, talking some wrestling, talking whatever we want on the Lights Out. Maybe talking some beer. We should do one episode like that one day.
We should do one about beer, yeah. Just about beer, yeah.
Yeah. So we got a lot of ideas we'll do out here. If you all have ideas, though, that you want us to talk about that's not in the 1980s, retroblood69@gmail.com. You can email us. Tell us, like, hey, you assholes, talk about this movie. You know what I mean? We'll do that.
Yeah.
Hey, assholes, talk about this beer. You know what I mean? So we'll do it on there, too. So we like to have a lot of fun. But J.H. Alison, do you have anything to say while we get out of here?
No, man, I love this movie. Yeah. Like, this era of films is like some of my favorite movies of all time were made right in this time. You got, from 76 to 1980 were some of the best movies, in my opinion, that would have my favorite movies of all time. And this is one of them. I love this movie. Yeah. I love it. I watch it a lot. Not as much as the first one, but I watch it a lot. Love this film. You guys should check it out. If you haven't seen it, give it a shot. Pretty good.
Yeah, y'all can find it on the Peacock. That's where I watch mine on. But they do have a steelbook of Jaws 2 out there, so always support physical media.
Yeah.
All right. And everybody support this podcast. Listen to us on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you get your podcast. And of course, here on YouTube, we always like to show up and check out the boys at Retro Blood. All right. Those bastards over there. Talking 80s
over there.
They're stuck in the 80s. They're a bunch of losers. We can talk about whatever.
Yeah, we can talk about anything. But yeah, like, subscribe, do all the stuff.
That's all out.
Come back and see those guys on Retro Blood.
Yeah. But everybody, like I said, check us out this Sunday, Retro Blood, Jaws 3D. J.H. Alison, James Kline. We will see you in the deep blue sea.
See you guys.
Later.